Why did Ukraine stop ramming drones into bridges and start planting 25 chained TM-62M mines under one? Because when a Russian convoy hit the Tata Bridge at dawn, the entire span and the supply artery went down in seconds. Today, we break down the pivot, from vulnerable Kamikaze UAVs to signal-resistant static ambushes and naval USVs. Stay with this, because the same logic that collapsed a bridge powered the Magura V5 swarms that sent the patrol ship Sergei Kotov to the bottom. And it's rewriting how to defeat jamming, logistics, and a bigger navy. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. If drones kept dying in the air, why did a buried chain of TM-62Ms succeed without a shot fired? Because the fight didn't happen in the sky. It happened in soil, concrete, and the seconds before dawn when radios go deaf under heavy jamming. Russian electronic warfare blanked out the usual paths, 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz. So any kamikaze UAV aimed at bridges or convoys either drifted off course, lost feed, or got spoofed into the water. Bridges survived. Trucks kept rolling. The problem wasn't courage or piloting. It was physics and spectrum control. The answer started with a window before sunrise and a span guarded by men who trusted their jammers. Wireless triggers were at risk. A convoy was closing. There was no time to gamble on a clean signal getting through. The plan switched to weight, blast geometry, and the parts of the bridge that actually carry the load. 25 TM-62M mines, each a Soviet-era workhorse with a dense TNT core, were chained under the strongest points of the Tata Bridge, at the pillars and joints that transfer force into the ground. Instead of striking the deck and hoping for a hole, the chain aimed to break the bones. Getting them in place took a quiet push. Teams moved in the dark and set the clock for 5:20 a.m. They laid the line to create a 100-foot kill zone on the deck and a failure line below. The chain meant one blast could pull the next, and the next, multiplying the pressure wave as it hit concrete and steel. They didn't need to level every inch. They needed the supports to shatter and the slab to twist enough that nothing could cross. Why did ground-delivered charges ignore the jamming? Because they don't depend on clean airwaves to do their job. The explosive sits on target. The physics live in the material, not in a radio link. At detonation, the shock loads the pillar directly, forcing cracks through rebar. Then the slab loses support, and gravity does the rest. RF-reliant drones have to survive the approach and maintain control in a hostile spectrum. Static charges wait in silence until a trigger, any trigger, sets them off. Electronic warfare still tried to stop it. An RB341 type jammer disrupted the first detonation signal, exactly what it was built to do, sweeping the known control bands and blocking remote ignition. The team pivoted to a manual trigger. They used an FPV drone with a fiber-optic tether, a hair-thin line immune to the jammer's broadcast. The control and video stayed stable while everything else on the net went dark. The drone drove straight into the cluster to close the circuit by contact. Overhead, another drone watched in infrared. Heat signatures showed the lineup they needed. Truck exhaust plumes, BTR engines warm at idle, and fuel loads glowing inside tankers. The thermal contrast gave spacing, speed, and the moment the head of the column reached the kill zone. That timing mattered more than any loud countdown. Hit too early, and the convoy breaks outside the blast. Hit too late, and the heavy vehicles clear the weak point. The blast rolled under the deck and came up through it. Supports failed first, then the span dropped, and the convoy went with it. Fuel flashed, ammunition cooked off. Armored carriers didn't beat the pressure wave at that range. The result answered the opening question. Ukraine abandoned kamikaze drones here because mines on the structure guaranteed a structural kill and wiped the convoy even under full-spectrum jamming. A land ambush solved the jamming problem. At sea, a different quiet weapon was taking shape, built on the same idea of cutting the signal chain that defenders expected to control. What does a buried minefield under concrete have in common with a small boat that can outthink a frigate's sensors? Both hide their intent, wait for the window, and attack where defenses are blind. After the bridge, the same logic moved offshore. Ukraine leaned on Magura V, 5 unmanned surface vessels, compact and fast with enough range to stalk a patrol route and enough payload to break steel. Control didn't hinge on a single radio beam. The boats linked through a mesh, hopping signals and adapting routes, so one dead link didn't kill the attack. They were designed to ride out a contested spectrum, not fight it head-on. Now drop that into the Black Sea's most watched lanes. The Kerch Strait and approaches sit under radar umbrellas, electronic warfare posts, and picket ships that scan and jam. Conventional wisdom says a small boat can't get near a combatant in that space. The Black Sea Fleet layers detection, surface search radar, thermal cameras, small arms teams on the rails, and airborne patrols when available. The gap isn't in the watch list. It's in how long a defender can manage fast contacts from multiple bearings while their own spectrum clutters. A low-profile hull at wave height cuts radar return, and a spread of USVS multiplies track files until one gets through. That spread doesn't appear by accident. Group 13 teams worked with the Navy and the Ministry of Digital Transformation to stage multi-angle strikes. One team tasks launch and recovery. Another handles navigation and updates. A third monitors feeds and deconflicts routes so no boat masks another. They pull targeting cues from intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance and time the approach, so each USV meets the target within seconds of the others. The result is not a race. It's a forced choice tree for the defender that shortens with every second. The research on resilient control holds up in practice. Distributed links reduce single-point failure, and a mesh will reroute instructions around a jammed node. If a boat loses remote steering for a moment, it still carries a preloaded track and a trigger plan. That combination of autonomy and reroutable control keeps the kill chain intact, even when jammers sweep the band. No single controller to blind. No single antenna to cut. On the night the patrol ship Sergei Kotov went down, multiple Magura V5s pressed in. Initial reports identified 5 hulls that reached striking distance. Footage released after the attack shows USVs closing, one slamming into the hull with a heavy blast, followed by others hitting the stern and side in tight sequence. Pro-Kremlin sources showed the ship firing at the boats, then a final, larger explosion. Witness accounts described 5 loud detonations. The key detail isn't the fireworks. It's where the blasts landed, near and below the waterline, where compartments flood faster and damage control loses the race. The aftermath rippled beyond a single loss. With strikes stacking up, Russian command pulled more assets to Novorossiysk in Krasnodar, a safer harbor away from the tight corridors nearest Crimea. That shift stretches patrol cycles, complicates escort duties, and puts fresh pressure on supply lines feeding the peninsula. Every sortie now runs longer and risks more gaps in coverage along the strait. Doctrine ties these threads. Like mines chained to a bridge's load points, USVs abandon a single vulnerable signal path and move to a resilient multi-node kill chain aimed at weak spots. Mines were planted through night-long prep under ISR cover. At sea, the boats applied the same principle with low signatures and hard-to-jam control. The outcome is the same kind of shock, but on water, it travels farther through schedules, fuel math, and the timetables of an entire fleet. The strongest signal in modern war is silence. Ambush mines wait cold on steel. USVS skim in radio clutter without announcing a thing. They don't broadcast, they erase. That's why a span falls and a patrol ship lists before defenders even line up a clean shot. Outcomes, not noise. Watch the logistics map, not the headlines. Routes bend, harbors empty, schedules slip. The next breakthrough will look like nothing until a bridge drops or a hull floods. One strike changes a week of movement. If you want more deep dives into tactics that outlast jamming and armor, tell us which front to dissect next.